Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Passimian. Passimian is a pure fighting type Pokemon that can be encountered via raids or through field research. And as for the moveset, it has counter, superpower, and close combat. So, the charge moves it has are pretty good, but only having fighting moves definitely limited in the coverage that it can provide. But regardless, we're going to test it out in the Open Ultra League to see how it can do. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Passimian in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, Pidgeot into Giratina Altered. It's a Shadow Claw Giratina, which is good news for Pidgeot, but if they're staying in, they very well could have Ancient Power. We'll have to see. Giratina does go for the Ancient Power. Thankfully, they do not get the boost. I'm going to massively overfarm and go for the Feather Dance, because if they're hitting for super effective damage, I'm going to lower that with the Feather Dance debuff. Feather Dance is going to connect. They're staying in despite the debuff and throwing another charge move. It is going to be the Ancient Power, farming up with the Pidgeot, and now I'm going for the Brave Bird. This will hit for heavy damage if it can connect onto the Giratina, which it does. And we get the catch onto Cobalion. Let's go. The Giratina has basically been neutralized at this point. We'll have to see what my opponent has in the back. And it's a Charmer. Please tell me this isn't Giratina Double Charm, because if so, Passimian's about to get destroyed in the back. Stone Edge will connect onto the Sylveon. I'm continuing to farm up with Cobalion, and here I decide I want to commit the shield. I'm actually not going for a Stone Edge. What I'm doing is I'm going to go for double Sacred Sword. The reason being is that a Sacred Sword will not KO here, but it will get some valuable chip damage to potentially put the Sylveon into a range where I can farm it down with either Passimian or with the Pidgeot. Now I'm going to send in Pidgeot. Pidgeot makes the Feather Dance with a sliver of HP, and this will come very close to KOing. Opponent shields the Sylveon. In comes Giratina. Giratina makes a move at the last possible second. I'm just going to let this go. It's all up to Passimian. Passimian only has fighting moves, so we have to hope there's something in the back weak to fighting. Sylveon makes a charge move. I'm committing the shield. What is that final Pokemon? It's a Swampert. Okay. I need back-to-back moves to win, so I'm going to farm up to the double superpowers. Superpower, of course, will lower both my attack and defense. Superpower into the Swampert. Passimian wins CMP, denying the Hydro Cannon. Superpower takes down the Swampert, and that is a good game. The Ghost leads continue in the next match, leading Pidgeot into Jellicent. Jellicent is an absolute nightmare for my backline to see, so I'm definitely happy to catch it on the lead. My opponent ends up lagging at the start, and that actually works to their advantage, as due to the lag, they're able to catch the Feather Dance onto Galarian Weezing. The nice thing is Weezing is debuffed here, but my backline of two fighters really doesn't want to see Weezing, so I'm going to stay in here, tank that debuffed Play Rough, and now go for the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will hit for massive damage into the Weezing. I'm going to switch into Cobalion and get the double kick down. My opponent is going to be sending back in the Jellicent, and honestly, this is not bad for me, because at the very least, I have Stone Edge on Cobalion, whereas Passimian only has double resisted moves, so I absolutely cannot have Passimian seeing the Jellicent. I'm farming up and firing off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be no-shielded, and it's a CMP tie. Tough call to make, but I decide to actually shield Cobalion. My Pidgeot has taken quite a lot of damage here. I'm going to continue to farm up and go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be getting them incredibly low. Opponent is going to match shields. I'm going to try and go for a Shadow Ball catch, but my opponent shows great restraint, holding on to their energy, and now they get to fire not one, but two Surfs at the Pidgeot, and unfortunately this will be lethal. So a bit of a misplay there by me, as I basically just give away the Pidgeot for nothing. But I can send back in Cobalion. Cobalion farming up, and again winning CMP over the Jellicent here. Firing off the Stone Edge, that gets shielded. This is the Surf. I need to get damage onto this Jellicent. I need to make the Stone Edge. I have to hope they're on their 4-cycle here. Cobalion farming up, and I fall just short of the Stone Edge. Surf will KO. This is bad. I send in Passimian in the back. It's a Snarl Mandibuzz. Maybe there's actually a chance. The fact that there's Snarl of course is heavily resisted, so it's basically doing no damage, but Aerial Ace will hit for super effective damage. I'm farming up. I have to wait for them to throw both of their moves first, and then I can debuff myself. Now I'm going to fire off the Close Combat. Close Combat will hit for some heavy neutral damage into the Mandibuzz, and then I'm going to need to overfarm here, trying to make it to the back-to-back superpowers. I just can't get there. I'm firing off the superpower into the Mandibuzz. It KOs. In comes the Jellicent, but this is double resisted and debuffed, If only Passimian had a coverage move, but sadly it does not, and Jellison takes the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Pidgeot into Giratina Altered. And like last time, this one is staying in the matchup despite being Shadow Claw, but the nice thing is, they only farm up to a Dragon Claw. I know it can't be the Ancient Power, which is definitely good news for me. I'm going to overfarm and then go for the Feather Dance here, as I want to get some debuffs on the Tina. Opponent is going to save switch into a Greedent, and oh boy, that is a welcome sight considering I have two fighters in the back. My hope is that they're running a strategy that is double weak to fighting, because in that case, I would just have the perfect alignment for Passimian in the endgame. Greedent goes for the Crunch, that does basically nothing, and Greedent loses CMP to Cobalion, and this Sacred Sword will be lethal. Down goes Greedent, back in comes the Giratina, but my Cobalion is still absurdly healthy. They're going to need multiple charge moves to KO, and all the while, I can chip away at their health with these neutral Stone Edges. Firing off Stone Edge number 1 into the Giratina. Giratina will be able to tank 1, but it looks like, based on the damage it's already taken, that a second Stone Edge would actually be lethal here. They fire off the Shadow Sneak. That is still not going to KO. Cobalion makes the Stone Edge, and considering that I have a Feather Dance Mon, they can't afford to let this through, because if they no-shield, I can just get a guaranteed debuff on whatever they bring in. They have so much energy on this Giratina. Giratina will fire off the Dragon Claw, and they're already at back-to-back, and they still have a little bit of residual energy as well. I'm going to farm up with the Pidgeot here, go for the Feather Dance on the CMP tie. Now, Feather Dance is going to come very close to KOing. We see a shield from the Giratina, so they're weak to Pidgeot in the back, but you know what? I'm going to trust in Passimian, and the trust is rewarded as it's a Scrafty in the back. Thank goodness it's something that doesn't resist fighting. If it's a fighting resist, even with my 2 shields, I probably just lose because Passimian has 0 coverage whatsoever, but it's a Scrafty. What a beautiful day. We're going to take multiple power-up punches, and we make it to the back-to-back moves. Superpower into that Scrafty will KO. In comes the Giratina, and we get to Superpower a Ghost type, but this time it will be lethal, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Pidgeot into Alolan Ninetales. Let's check the fast move on the Ninetales, and it is a Charm Alolan Ninetales. Farming up with the Pidgeot, and I'm going to fire off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will hit for massive damage if it lands, which it does. I send in Cobalion, and my opponent is going to respond with Swampert. Swampert, honestly, not what I'm hoping to see here, but if they're sending in Swampert, then hopefully that means they are going to be weak to fighting somewhere in the back, since Swampert isn't your typical answer to a fighter. They go for the Hydro with the Swampert. I make it to another Sacred Sword, but this will not KO. My opponent can safely no-shield here, still make it to the next Hydro, and this will be lethal, so I'm just going to let this go, and I am now going to trust in Pidgeot for a farm down. Pidgeot isn't in Hydro Cannon range since they're a non-shadow, so I can just commit to the farm down and leave with energy to pressure whatever my opponent sends in. Hydro Cannon connects. We see the combo play from my opponent as they send in their A9. A9 gets the KO. In comes Passimian. Passimian gets the farm down. Let's see what's in back. It's a Walrein. Oh my goodness. There might actually be a chance here. I'm firing off the superpower. Unfortunately, that's my cheapest move, but it will debuff my defense, meaning that their fast moves are now doing more damage. I'm farming up to what I think is the back-to-back moves, but it turns out I'm actually 5 energy short of the next. I just have to watch for the catch here. I fire off the superpower. They shield. They go for the catch. Thank goodness I wasn't actually at the back-to-back there. I get to fire off a third superpower, KO the Walrein, and get the win. We've got some spice from the opponent in the next match as I lead Pidgeot into Shadow Kanto Muck. Now, Muck, of course, has Thunder Punch for the Pidgeot and has a fighting resist as well, so this is an awful Pokemon for this team to see. I know I can tank 1, so I am going to let that go. And then you know what? I'm going to full send a Brave Bird. I need to get this thing out of here. Brave Bird, get shielded. I'm going to pivot into Cobalion. My opponent responds with a Trevenant. Oh my goodness. Things could not be going much worse in this matchup as Trevenant absolutely crushes the fighters in the back. I'm going to fire off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will deal some very nice damage onto the Trevenant. Trevenant continuing to farm up. Cobalion makes it to the next Stone Edge. This should hopefully be grabbing a shield from my opponent. Opponent lets it through knowing they live that. What an unreal play by my opponent, and Seed Bomb will get the KO. In comes Passimian. Passimian gets the farm down. We obviously know they have the Kanto Muck. The question is, what is that final Pokemon? My guess is we'll see the Muck. In comes the Muck. I'm farming up with Passimian. Unfortunately there, it looked like I may have gotten denied, and I don't get a counter through, which is a bit unfortunate. But again, I only have fighting moves. Everything I throw is resisted. I just have to hope that somehow, against all odds, close combat will KO. Opponent commits the shield. Okay, so at the very least, shields are down. I'm very heavily debuffed here, but I need close combat to KO. Come on, Passimian. I've overfarmed slightly. Hopefully I can outpace whatever's in the back. It nearly KOs. In the back, it's a wall rain. I can't make the move due to the debuff. I'm forced to switch into Pidgeot. They fire off the Icicle Spear to KO the Pidgeot. Passimian cannot make the move, and we lose the game. We've got a pretty neutral lead in the next match, Pidgeot into Cresselia. With two fighters in the back, I am incredibly pleased to catch Cresselia on the lead. I'm just looking to overfarm here. My opponent does have enough for a Future Sight here, and they're actually running it as Future Sight deals massive damage. I'm firing off the Brave Bird. I should be able to make it 2 back-to-back Brave Birds before they make their next Future Sight. Farming up with the Pidgeot, and I make it to the Brave Bird. Let's see. This will hit for massive neutral damage. Opponent commits the shield. I'm going to bank some energy, switch in Cobalion, and they throw a move. Honestly, this is perfect. Now, Future Sight is only neutral here, so I can actually take the move. Now I'm going to farm up, go for the Stone Edge, but a back-breaking catch by my opponent, catching the Stone Edge onto Virizion. What an absolutely unreal catch. Virizion will be able to outpace due to that double kick they snuck on the catch, and they're able to get the KO. In comes Pidgeot. I'm firing off the Feather Dance here. This hits for double super effective damage. Feather Dance gets them low. Virizion chooses not to throw the move and instead just gets the Pidgeot as low as possible. In the back, it's an Obstagoon. Oh my goodness, can I win this game? I tank whatever they throw here. They go for an Obstruct with the Obstagoon, lowering my defense. In comes Cresselia. Cresselia firing off their charge move. This is a Grass Knot Future Sight Cresselia. I'm farming up with Passimian, and I'm launching the Close Combat. Close Combat is the stronger of the two moves, gets the Crest to 1 HP, but Crest able to hang on and make another move. If Obstagoon makes a move, I lose this game. Let's see. Passimian gets the farm down, and the win. Hopping into the final match, leading Pidgeot into Jellicent. Again, incredibly happy to see the Ghost type on the lead, but the opponent is going to save switch into a Nidoqueen, and already they have 2 fighting type resists, so this is probably just going to be a loss right off the bat. I have 2 fighters. I have really nothing for Nidoqueen on this team. I try and go for the Hail Mary Brave Bird, and I'm unsuccessful. Now I'm going to send in Cobalion, and I'm thinking, well, I can shield up the Earth Power, fire off a lot of Sacred Swords, but I get Poison Fang baited. At this point, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Everything that's going wrong, like that could go wrong in this matchup, is going wrong. I'm farming up with Cobalion, firing off Sacred Sword after Sacred Sword, but the issue is I took a lot of damage onto the Pidgeot, which means that my Pidgeot is probably not going to be very effective at neutralizing the Jellicent. They finally do full send that Earth Power, and I'm firing off the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword I don't think is quite going to be enough to KO here. Nidoqueen able to survive, they make a move. This is only the Poison Fang though, so I will be able to tank this, but I'm down a shield, I don't have Switch, and I have given up a lot of HP on my Pidgeot. So at this point, unfortunately, I'm probably just going to get swept by Jellicent. I fire off the Stone Edge, I make it to another Stone Edge, and I win CMP. So a bit of a misplay by my opponent. Stone Edge is going to get the Jellicent low. Jellicent firing off a charge move into the debuffed Cobalion. Surf into the Cobalion. Opponent makes a very nice undercharge to get a little bit of extra energy. I'm going to send in Pidgeot, but the issue is they're at back-to-back Surfs here, which means they're going to be able to KO. And with the shield remaining, I have no way to get rid of the Jellicent. I only have double resisted damage. There's just nothing Passimian can do here, and I resign the match. And now some final thoughts on Passimian and its viability in Go Battle League. First off, Counter and either Superpower or Close Combat are a really good start, as it has very, very good charge moves and very good fast move, but the issue, of course, is that it has absolutely no coverage whatsoever. So I'd very much like to see Passimian be a moveset candidate in the future, potentially even getting a bait move that could complement the Counter and Superpower or Counter and Close Combat combination. So definitely a Pokemon to keep an eye on for the future, and maybe even stash one just in case it does get a move update, as if it got coverage, it could potentially be interesting. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.